Okay, so today we're taking a deep dive into a Christian caregiving course called the Caregiving Course. We got some information from the Caregivers Network website. And, I'm already thinking this could be pretty relevant to a lot of us. I mean, at some point, a lot of us will either need care or find ourselves caring for somebody.
Yeah, that's very true. And, the need for knowledgeable and compassionate caregivers is just growing and growing. This course was developed by Dr. Warwick Cooper, who has over 40 years of experience. And one of the things that's really interesting to me about this is how it blends, practical caregiving skills with a Christian perspective on service and compassion.
Yeah, that's really cool. But before we even jump into the content, like, what's the format? Is it like an intensive weekend workshop? Or?
No, not at all. It's actually a 12-week online program, and it's designed for small groups, so you have that flexibility of learning from home, but you also have that sense of community and support.
Well, that's smart. That makes a lot of sense in our busy world.
Yeah.
But, okay, one of the things that really intrigued me was this phrase on the website. It said, transformative caregiving practices. And I'm picturing like a magic wand that turns stress into serenity. What's the real story here?
Well, maybe not a magic wand, but the course really aims to go beyond just like the mechanics of caregiving and really digs into the emotional and spiritual aspects for both the caregiver and the person receiving care. And I think that's where the transformation comes in.
And that's a really good point because caregiving can be really demanding, like physically and emotionally. And if you're trying to navigate that from a place of faith, it just adds a whole other layer of complexity.
Absolutely. And this course really seems to acknowledge those challenges head on. One of the module titles is The Heart's Compass, Navigating Your Emotions with Wisdom. And this idea of emotional regulation for the caregiver is huge.
It is. I could see how easily resentment or burnout could build up if you aren't equipped to handle the emotional roller coaster of caregiving. So what kind of tools does the course offer in this area?
Well, it's tough to say for sure without actually seeing the material. But based on Dr. Cooper's background and the module descriptions, I would imagine it combines practical strategies with spiritual guidance. Things like mindfulness techniques, communication skills, and drawing strength from your faith.
Yeah, that makes sense. And this focus on the caregiver's emotional well-being, it kind of leads right into another module title that got my eye. It's called Emerging Stronger, The Hidden Opportunities in Crisis. That almost seems counterintuitive. Like, how can crisis be an opportunity?
That's what's so fascinating about this course is it encourages this shift in perspective. When we go through difficult times, we often emerge with a deeper understanding of ourselves and our strength. And this module seems to be about finding meaning and purpose in the midst of challenging circumstances.
I love that. And it's not just about the caregiver, right? The course also addresses the spiritual needs of the care receiver, which is so important but often overlooked. I mean, we're not just bodies that need to be taken care of. We're complex beings with emotional and spiritual needs as well.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another intriguing module title, Channels of Grace, Transforming Lives Through Spiritual Care. This seems to be where the Christian perspective really comes into play.
Right. Okay. So how do they approach that? Like transforming lives through spiritual care? Is it about specific prayers or rituals? Or is it more about cultivating a certain mindset or approach?
That's a great question. And it's something I'm curious about too. But I think it speaks to the idea that, caregiving isn't just about tasks. It's about presence, connection, and recognizing the inherent dignity and worth of the person that you're caring for.
Yeah, I'm starting to get the sense that this course, it's less about giving you a set of instructions and more about equipping you with a framework for how to approach caregiving in a way that honors both the giver and the receiver.
Exactly. And that's where those foundational tools the website mentions come in. I'm guessing it's not about literal tools, but more about principles and perspectives that can guide you through the complexities of caregiving.
Right, like instead of saying, here's how to lift someone safely, it's more like, here's how to approach caregiving with a heart of compassion and wisdom.
Exactly. And that makes me think about something else the website mentions, which is self-care for the caregiver. It's easy to get so caught up in caring for others that you neglect your own needs.
Oh, absolutely. It's like the classic airplane oxygen mask analogy.
Yeah.
You have to take care of yourself before you can effectively care for others. So does the course address that specifically?
It seems to. There's a module called Nourishing the Wellspring, Sustaining Yourself in the Journey of Caregiving. And I'm guessing that's where they really delve into strategies for maintaining your own well-being, your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being while you're navigating the demands of caregiving.
That's so important. If you're running on empty, You're not going to be able to provide the best care possible. So it sounds like this course takes a really holistic approach, addressing the practical, emotional, and spiritual aspects of caregiving.
It really does. And it's not just theoretical. They emphasize practical application, encouraging participants to really integrate these principles into their daily
That
lives.
brings us to a really practical question, the cost. The website mentions a fee, which is understandable, but it can be a barrier for some people.
Oh, you're right. And I know a lot of caregivers are already stretched so thin financially. That's why it's really encouraging to see that they offer scholarships to make the course accessible to a wider range of people.
That's great, because ultimately this kind of information should be available to anybody who needs it.
Absolutely. And I think it speaks to their mission of supporting caregivers and recognizing the vital role they play in our communities.
It's a beautiful thing. Because let's be honest, investing in yourself, whether it's through this course or any other form of personal or spiritual growth, it often has ripple effects that extend far beyond you.
I couldn't agree more. When we learn how to care for ourselves and others with greater compassion and wisdom, it creates this positive impact on our relationships, our families, and our communities.
So for anyone listening who's feeling inspired to check out this caregiving course, where can they go to learn more?
All the information is on the Caregivers Network website. That's caregiversnetwork.aa.
Perfect. And honestly, even if you're not currently in a caregiving role, I think this course offers really valuable insights for anyone who wants to deepen their understanding of compassion, empathy, and what it means to truly care for ourselves and others.
Yeah, it's like we've been saying. Even if you never find yourself in a formal caregiving role, these principles apply to all our relationships. Learning to navigate those difficult emotions and finding meaning in those tough times, showing up for people with compassion. Are those skills we could all benefit from?
Absolutely. This whole deep dive has really highlighted for me how much we tend to compartmentalize caregiving when really it's woven into the fabric of all our
It's
lives.
such a good point. It's not just about taking care of someone who's sick or elderly. It's about showing up for our friends, our families, our communities, even strangers, with that same spirit of empathy and support. Yeah, and it makes you wonder if we all approached our interactions with a little bit more of that caregiving mindset, what kind of impact could we have on the world?
Oh, that's beautiful. And kind of ties back to that idea of transformative caregiving practices. Maybe the transformation isn't just about the person receiving care, but also the giver. Maybe it changes us for the better.
You know what? I think you've hit on something really profound. It reminds me of something Dr. Cooper said on the website about caregiving being this journey of mutual growth and transformation.
That's so powerful. It's not just a one-way street. Both the giver and receiver have the potential to learn, grow, and evolve through the experience.
Exactly. And it brings us back to that final question. How might understanding these caregiving principles impact not just the care receiver, but also the caregiver's own life and relationships?
That's something to really think about.
Hmm.
And for anyone listening who's feeling inspired to learn more, be sure to check out Caregivers Network's website. You can find all the details about the caregiving course there, along with some really amazing resources on all aspects of caregiving.
Yeah, it's definitely worth exploring. And remember, whether you're a seasoned caregiver or just beginning to think about these things, there's always something new to learn. And your capacity for compassion is limitless.
Beautifully said. So to all our listeners out there, may this deep dive inspire you to approach all your relationships with a little more intention, a little more grace, and a whole lot of heart.